Hi everyone, welcome to MartechBrain, a netcore initiative where we speak to the best brains in Martech and delve deep into one topic. My guest today is Vishakha Singh. Vishakha is also a good friend. Vishakha has worked as a media professional, launched many brands, and been an entrepreneur. She also writes a very popular column, Soch to Success, in Money Control at moneycontrol.com, and it's become the top column, so do check it out. Her chosen topic for our discussion today is thinking skills. And as part of our conversation, we're also going to talk about our newest initiative, Shift, simple habits and ideas for forward thinking. So welcome to MartechBrain, Vishakha.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you so much for having me over.
So let's start with Shift, basically. So what is the problem that Shift is trying to solve?
Shift is, the goal of Shift is to build confidence on individual thinking. So I want to tell you a story actually. Many years ago, about 10, 15 years ago, a friend of mine approached to say, let's do marathon running. So I said, okay, but I can't run even half a kilometer. So how can we do even half marathon? So she said, let's join a class. So we actually joined a running class at Priyadarshini Park by Savio. And we started to learn running. Now, everybody who heard, who said that, how come, who takes a running class, right? I mean, you're born to run, right? And why are you taking running class? But what it did was people like us, both me and my friend who could not even run 400 meters, we were able to finish our first half marathon in a long duration, but we were able to finish without any injury. And we learned how to keep our posture right and build our endurance and everything. So as simple as thinking is running is, so is thinking. We think that we know all about thinking, but ultimately we do not know how to take decisions when it comes to taking decisions. So Shift's aim is to enable people through habits and ideas that can make them confident decision makers in life. They become confident critical thinkers about themselves at personal level as well as professional level, a lot to do with work level as well. So that's why it is called simple habits and ideas for forward thinking, because it is not about just one day of critical thinking.
So what you're basically saying is that critical thinking is really a skill. Decision making is a skill.
Yes.
That we can work on and become better at.
Yes. Thinking is a skill that can be acquired. We can learn to think. And this comes by doing several little things. We are not taught how to think, but like you can learn how to do storytelling. The storytelling in itself is a thinking process. So if you have to become a writer, and if you want to become a fictional writer, then you try and start telling and picking up. So you hone certain skills. And in those skills, what you are doing is honing your mind. So the more you give to your mind, and to simplify, I say, when you come across a new word while you're writing or speaking, how has the word come to you? It's just suddenly doesn't born in your mind. You would have come across, either heard it, seen it, read it. Similarly, the mind keeps absorbing. So if you read Daniel Kahneman's book, which talks about two minds actually, it is one of the way that where you are honing certain parts of your mind which deploy when needed. So that's how you actually scientifically acquire thinking, but you come through habits, and there's a lot of sciences that have approved it.
So one basic question here, I mean, what is really critical thinking? So, I mean, thinking sort of to me is like, okay, thoughts keep coming into our head, but you're taking it one level further than that. Okay, so you're this or creative and critical thinking. Now, what exactly do you mean by that?
So I'll explain to you in simple words what is critical thinking. In as simple as it's your expertise to do or take decisions without any biases. So what critical thinking does is helps you prepare against your own cognitive biases. You are capable of understanding a problem, you get more determined to learn towards how to find a solution, which may not be just a linear thinking, but a more holistic approach of that. And it also very critically builds your emotional agility, I would rather say. So your biases. So for example, if a team member in a corporate office has been given an assignment, and while the boss is speaking and giving him an assignment, he's already thinking of how to do it, but that might not be the right solution, because he's already perceived the boss in a certain manner, and he's already taken some decisions. So there are these cognitive biases that have happened through his own experience with the boss, start making him. So what a critical thinker becomes is that he listens intently and then try to solve it differently. Critical thinking is also actually, how do you develop it is you bring a lot of mental models together and put them, and kind of brings, like how it's called connecting the dots. So you make a kind of a lattice work to connect all the dots, and then you deploy your own solution. So it's,
in fact, this is very, yeah. Go ahead, sorry, Vishakha.
So it's essentially, it's essentially a skill to layer your thinking process, which deploys different skill sets and brings it to a solution at a particular time. So I'll give you some examples later.
Yeah, I think what you're basically saying is that all of us have inherent biases which are there. And many times we make sort of instantaneous judgments or decisions, partly because of our sort of biases, etc. And that may not be the right thing for us to do. And what critical thinking probably is helping us do is making us more self-aware of the biases, creating a framework or a process for making decisions. I mean, in your shift, you talk about process and the social, and we'll come back to that in a little time. But it's really about self-awareness and then using a set of mental models to help you make better decisions.
Yes,
that's really what you're.
Mental models, they are mental tools which help in decision making. So for example, if you have to work on a problem, many a times to solve a problem, the biggest challenge is to understand the problem right, to get the question right. So you use a tool to understand, how can I understand raising the right question. So today in businesses, a lot of questions are being raised, how to handle a particular situation. But sometimes to get deeper into understanding of the problem, you have to understand tools and empathy, and there are different layers to come to arrive at the problem, then to look for solution. So you're even questioning a problem if this is the right problem. So that makes it's said, and scientists have said it, that you spend 95% of your time addressing the problem and in 5% to find the solution. So that's what critical thinking does. So it's not only about emotional or cognitive biases, it's also about bringing mental models together. It's also about creative thinking and thinking with agility and understanding the problems.
So as you were saying, I was just thinking back to, we are never taught these skills at all. I mean, it's just assumed that each of us just sort of acquires it as we go forward. But
yes, like running. I was never taught running.
Yeah, just assumption is that, you can.
Yeah, that I will run. I was never a sporty child in my childhood. I still can't run, but I did 5 half marathons. So yes, thinking has never been taught consciously. But what is being done in schools is that small parts, like how to write, how to listen, how to understand, small other parts are being taught to us. So that's how the education does to us. So you start at an early stage, you start developing mental models of your own. So you follow a sports person, you understand, oh, he works like this. So therefore you're kind of benchmarking that if I have to be into sports, I have to be like this, or I have to do certain things like this. So it is not that, so we are always soaking in, but critical thinking brings it all together and says that this is how you can deploy it. So there are not too many courses, like you rightly said. It's not a subject. Design thinking, which is a different field, which leads to innovation in strategy and in your work and in services and products. is a step-by-step definition towards a certain goal. And shift is actually a precursor to design thinking.
Okay. So how does one sort of go about acquiring it? And you've started a 4-module course,
Yes.
of course, in this. And the 3 elements, the 3 modules, which or the 3 core pillars of the triangle that you talk about are you as the individual, the process, and the social. So
Yes.
just walk us through these 3 elements.
So 1 second, sorry. So yes, I have tried to give a framework, because like you rightly said, critical thinking is, though there's a lot of work that you do as a team and as thinkers, but it's ultimately an individual's choice how one person thinks. So even when you put people for brainstorming, there are people who come into a room, but each one brings certain skill on the table or idea or thoughts, and then collectively you take a decision. So the model is exactly like that. At the center of the model is you. So how you develop your own understanding of thinking and how you work towards your own thought process is where you come into the picture. So in critical thinking, whenever people say that, Vishakha, how does one acquire critical thinking? And I always say the first step is to think about thinking. To get aware that, even and I'm going back to running as an example, to get aware that even to learn running, I need to hire a coach, even though who learns running? But now that is accepted because a lot of people are running marathons. So that's accepted that you need to learn training. Similarly, in thinking, you have to understand that you're going towards that process that, okay, let me think. So the minute you start understanding it, then you start noticing what are your challenge areas or which one do you want to work upon. So for example, I was talking to you about listening. Now, listening is a process which seems very simple. We have a ear to listen to, but what happens is it's a complex process. So by the time our speaker starts speaking, the kind of listener I would be, I'm already making up decisions in my mind, or I'm already arriving at a conclusion. So for example, if my child is speaking to me, I would behave very differently because I know what she's coming to by the time she finishes. Or when a boss is speaking to me, then I would always think that, okay, what is the deadline he's going to talk about? What is the deadline he's going to, if he's giving a project? So what happens is that, and sometimes these become very judgmental. So our judgments make us take decision even before things are
Correct.
fully spoken. And that's how you see that when a comedian delivers a joke, even before the joke is completed, people start clapping or laughing, or people walk out, right? So what thinking about thinking does to you is you understand that your listening process is not right. So you work towards saying that, okay, let me not be judgmental. So that's one step you pick up, right? So what I have explained to you is that you are here on the picture. You have thought about that I'm going to think about thinking. You move towards a process of your listening. So listening is a process that you're addressing to your own process. Now, how do you take example? For example, somebody has told you, but a friend of mine is into improv comedy. Now, improv as a comedy is something which is not, it's a theater actually. So where you are not have a pre-script that you learn and you go on the stage, but it's all about quickly picking up and doing it. And there, the first thing that they talk about listening is that A, don't be judgmental. B, they always start with and. So suppose you have said something, I will catch on the same sentence and say, and this has happened. So you're improving. Now that's a huge listening skill that it deploys. So what I have introduced here to you is improv as a model, mental model to develop your listening skill. Now improv comes from my social surrounding. I have watched a theater. So how I am in my ambience is my entire theater to learn from. So that becomes social. So how I'll pick up something from my office, that's my social. So all of us are inherently, I mean, human beings are social animals, right? So we all see things, we seek, even in the social distancing, which is actually physical distancing, we are always seeking how things are happening around us. So we pick up from those. So the framework that I have designed is a way to say that, okay, look, these are the 15 habits I'm suggesting to you, which fall from different models, but ultimately, even you can pick up. So, for example, basketball, and in basketball, you have a rebound that happens, and a rebounder brings in certain skill, or a musician brings a certain skill in a different thing. So you may pick up those skills from that person, and that becomes your social norm. And there are other things around social in the course, which is about how to look for ideas in your social surrounding, how to be with the team to work on your skill, which will help you strengthen things or brainstorm things. So it's not only about individual. So that's how the framework has been designed.
I think this is very fascinating, because what you're really saying is that this is such a core element to each one of us, because we are interacting with other people all the time. There are decisions which have to be made, and whether you're dealing with a customer or a colleague, okay, there are a lot of interactions, and every few minutes you're really making some decision or the other. And if we can become better at those decisions, it leads to a better us. And it's a core skill which we can, and I probably also, as you practice this more, you become better at it, almost
Yes.
like running again.
Yes, that is why I have called it as habits. And that is why I've simplified it and said that, you know, it is not like, oh, I get this certificate and today I'm a coder, but you have to keep doing at it. And you will find the difference at how you are being able to understand. And it happens in all the time, in both personal and professional life. It's not just one side, because it's your one single mind that is being deployed both at work and in personal life.
You were going to tell us a couple of stories.
In what sense? I have too many stories, but yes, my bag is full of
I think really bring it to life. So
Sorry.
anyone which I think will sort of help people understand the importance of critical thinking.
So I'll give you just yesterday, I was having a conversation with somebody who's at senior level in her job, and she is quite stable and in digital business. Yet she was talking to me for somebody to be appointed as a placement firm, and I said, "Why do you want to change your job?" So she says, "No, everything is fine, but I need to do something, or maybe I'll do a course." So I said, "Okay, that's a good idea. You can do a course because everybody is doing a course." Now she started thinking that, okay, she's already some 15 years plus of experience, and she thought maybe I should do some leadership course or things like that. Now she's at a situation where she has to take a call about, or she should do a digital skill course. And I had to, so there are these big words in life that have come, which is brand purpose, personal purpose, but we do not understand what exactly the purpose is. So we started working on her interest levels and said that, okay, and we realized that maybe sustainability, which has a long-term view in terms of job prospect, could be a course, and digital sustainability. And that's how she's trying to work upon it. So the example I'm giving to you is about how she's deploying it at work.
Right.
But at the same time, people who are looking at doing courses even at corporate levels, now they are looking at saying that, okay, can I become a coder tomorrow, or can I develop this? And my view is, depending on where you are, when you have to take that decision, you have to understand that what is happening in the world, and then therefore build stories from there. So and make decisions accordingly. So they are deploying these shift ka little parts to develop thinking skills for themselves, to say that, okay, what can I do? Similarly, at workplaces, suddenly the scenario has changed a lot. Right. And I was having another discussion with another friend who runs a company, and not a friend, actually a client, where they're talking about releasing their workspaces. And my question is that, how will you get your team to interact if you completely release, right? So now the thinking is about, can we create a way that once a week the entire team comes together for interaction, and then in bits and pieces 60 to 70% people come together for interaction for long term view, because you are understanding that this is a decision that is not just about saving rent, but it is about developing people's skills.
Correct.
Right. So there are various ways of people are using these things of decision making at work, at individual level, and at corporate level, at team levels to work around.
No, it's very fascinating because about 3.5 months ago, I had signed up for a course in decisions online. And I'd never thought first that I, at this age, should be learning about how to make decisions. I mean, I've gone through 50 plus years.
That's nice.
And I said, okay, let me go through this course. And I was fascinated because essentially, almost like what you're saying, they broke up the art of decisions into 13 steps, or 13 ideas really on how to think about making decisions. And each week they would basically say, okay, learn this and now try to practice it. So they said, we're not going to give you all the 13 skills right away. We're going to give you one skill at a time so that you can learn it. And I realized as I was going through this that many times we let our biases come into play. We are not thinking through like a simple thing like, when you make a decision, think through the worst case scenario, what is likely to happen. And then you sort of work towards not letting that happen. Or a pre-mortem. There are so many nice things which are there. And I think this is a great idea, what you've come up with, I think, in terms of thinking.
Yeah, but I still have to make people realize that they still need a trainer to run.
Yeah, I think I was going to come to that. That's basically, I think the hurdle here really is getting people, we all believe that, we are just very good at making decisions.
Yeah.
And that
in fact, this is very scientifically proven. So I follow work of a fighter pilot, John Boyd, and he has written an OODA model. He was a war military strategist. And in fact, his work has been become the kind of tenets for US Air Force. He was there during Korea War. And so it's quite known. And there are lots of, though he didn't leave much of written work, but his OODA model, which I'm not coming to, is what is a beautiful piece of work in terms of strategy. But his entire work is based on scientific principles. And I really believe he talks about second law of thermodynamics, that if you remain in a particular state, your entropy increases, which essentially you are not moving towards, I just simplify it, if a fixed mindset is something that is not going to happen. So critical thinking helps you become a growth mindset, where you are able to deploy different models to work towards a growth mindset. So your own metric towards your own measurement, and I'm not talking only personal, but even at professional, changes into a different work together altogether. So that is why this is a crucial part of understanding that how it can be broken into steps and be learned.
Yeah, I really think that, I think makes even a lot more sense even for younger people. They don't have to wait till they are old to develop this skill. I think the earlier you learn some of these things, they will go a long way in helping you in life.
Yes, I agree totally. I agree.
I want to bring it to marketing, essentially.
Yes.
You've spent a whole career in marketing and branding. And what are some of the skills that can apply more directly to marketers? If especially the ones who are starting off their career. I mean, if the Vishakha of today had done this course 20 years ago at the start of your career, or the Vishakha of today had to give advice to the Vishakha just joining the workforce as a marketer, what would you suggest to her?
The biggest thing that I'll suggest to her is that learn empathy. Mm-hmm. And empathy is a skill that it can be acquired again. And empathy is not about just understanding your mood right now, but empathy is about getting deeper because, and there's an empathy mapping framework actually. There are lots of such of those. And I learned empathy mapping only when I did design thinking. Uh, the marketer of today is data driven. I wish I had access 20 years ago or 15, 17 years ago, access to data. I didn't know when Times Now was doing very well or when we were not doing well, that who is watching me, right? Or who is doing. Today, I know granular data, right? But at the same time, I do not understand because I do not have the skill of empathy. So while at one level, there is mass personalization is happening, at the other level, I'm becoming colder and colder. And digital is doing that because you're moving away more and more, distancing from a physical connection. So as a human resource, I am used to connections. I like to see you. I like to touch and feel and experience. Now digital is not doing that. So for any digital marketer, and it's not about behavioral science here, it's about understanding the person on the other side. So if one skill that I have to tell people, I would say that practice empathy. And if the other skill that I have to say is become storytellers. Storytelling is a tough exercise. It's not an easy exercise. So even if I have to look at my weekly report, and if I'm not being able to look at that data and analyze and say that what is the story coming out of it, nobody will pay attention to me. The minute I have a story to tell, I myself will understand it better and I'll be able to explain to the team better. So I think these are the two things. I mean, storytelling is more of a practice how to do it, because the minute you start telling story about how Rajesh comes and opens his email and in the morning, the minute you start doing that, you start being empathetic towards Rajesh. So start developing that skill.
Wonderful advice. And I hope people can learn. I think storytelling is something which, while sort of we grow up a little bit with it, but then somewhere down the line, everyone tells us you have to be data driven decisions, data driven everything. And somewhere we lose that touch.
Data has to be story, no?
Absolutely.
If data is not telling story, then we are doing something wrong because people will stop connecting.
Great. I think very well summarized. So we come to the last bit.
Yes.
And we end on a lighter note, which I call the 5 ones. So one future tech or trend that excites you?
I think, again, future, I think there's huge amount of data and mass personalization is what I call is happening. And I feel that if there's more to do with building communities together, it'll work. That is a trend. I think it's waiting to happen at some point, in my view. And it's not like social, yeah.
Anyone doing that well? Any brand you think is doing that well today, where people can learn from them?
I see communities on social media, especially only on Facebook, doing far better. If they're dedicated communities, while there are a lot of open networks which have happened and they are coming, but people do make up communities on say a Slack or other medium and bring people together. But I'm told that Salesforce has a good community platform. I am not witness to this. I was trying to do homework in India with Salesforce. But I feel that more and more people, and you will see it around your life even during pandemic, we are learning from our community how they are behaving, what they are doing, how should I agree, and our interests. See, what has happened is that more and more democratization of knowledge is happening. So anybody can acquire anything, okay? I mean, my 15-year-old now can make a ECG machine through a class, which I could not imagine some engineers doing it. Now, this democratization of knowledge will only drive people towards interest. And I will be driven towards you because you are interested in thinking, because you have done decision making. And that will be done by platforms and trends of technology, which will keep mass personalization, yet keep them together.
Beautifully put. So um, almost like communities of practice, as it were.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
one tech trend that you're disappointed with.
I don't know if you like the answer. Actually, there are two, but one is obviously voice. I felt that voice could have been. Yesterday, I was trying to dictate something to my comp, and
Yeah.
I realized I'm much faster writing than
Writing.
dictating. I also feel that our email has remained linear. What it was 10, 12 years ago it's the strongest medium to reach. Yet, like WhatsApp or other platforms that have come and made our life easier, uh, email has not evolved like that. In fact, we are still deleting more than sending more. And I think there is a scope of work there. So I said, I know you may not like this,
I think
but
great.
somehow I feel that
Yeah.
there is
No, it's a very good point. I think there's a lot of room for
as a
innovation in
platform.
email.
It's
Somewhere.
for innovation, because it's a very strong medium and it's very personal.
Yes. Yes. One good book recommendation for people.
This is one of the toughest toughest question, because I have so many books to recommend and say that, okay, in this category you read this. If I have to choose one, I kept it, and I would say it's Inside the Nudge Unit, which is on behavioral economics. It's about British government formed a team to change behavior of people on a large scale. So people who can sign up for pension monies, or people who should, how they should influence behavior to wear helmet and things like that. So it's an eye opener and it's an easy read.
So Inside the Nudge Unit by David Halpern.
Yes.
In case people want to check it out.
Yes.
One good person or podcast to follow for people.
So I like to go to different people for different things. But one person I keep going back to is not actually a podcast, but more of his website. I'm more of a reader than listener. They do have a podcast as well. Is Marginal Revolution.
Yes.
By Alex Tabarrok. And I think they do a very good job in both giving their own point of view as well as curating a lot of pieces of information.
Yeah, great one. Tyler Cowen and Alex Tabarrok.
Yes,
the best
Tyler Cowen. Yes,
Marginal
I really like to go back to them again and again.
Yes. And finally, last question. One key driving belief in your life.
I think to keep life simple by being truthful and being honest and hardworking. It's the driver.
That's timeless wisdom.
Yeah.
But great inputs, Vishakha. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful session. And for everyone who's interested, I think Vishakha's website is habitsforthinking.in. I hope I got that right.
That's right.
So check out the Shift course. And I think there's a lot. Vishakha writes the regular series, and the stories are just fantastic. Check out a column at Money Control also. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back with another episode next week of MartechBrain. It's a NetCore initiative. Thank you.